June the 2nd, 2020. Guys, you're looking at images of the North American continent as far as the U.S. is concerned in Mexico. And there's storms popping up overnight that are very intense. You can look from Colorado up through Nebraska, north of there, going along the Great Lakes. Check that out into Wisconsin. Very powerful storms tonight, so you guys pay attention to this. But I want you to notice something. Of course, we're watching Tropical Storm Cristobal that's in the Bay of Campeche at the bottom of the screen. But this storm, which was originally Amanda that came out of the Pacific, was formed along the equator. And those storms are the most powerful, and they can reach over 1,000 miles in width as far as their weather system, not the center location. But look at the clearing ahead of the storm. Cristobal's here, but look at the effect going across Florida, into Mississippi, into Alabama. Think about what I'm talking about, southern Louisiana. This is pushing weather away from it. It's that powerful. And if you look at the last few frames of the rotation here in Cristobal, and I will pull this up, and it's at 45 miles an hour, and it's going to head straight towards the Louisiana coast, somewhere between the mouth of the Mississippi River and New Orleans, according to the National Hurricane Center, which is an average of the models. You also notice off the west coast here, you got some moisture pulling up. It's also a counterclockwise rotation. Weather's changing rapidly into a very stormy season because we're in grand solar minimum and our shields are weak. And the sun affects every drop of rain, every breath of wind that you've ever felt on Earth or ever will. That's why they call it space weather. Space weather is Earth weather. But what we're seeing, and I want to pull this up, Cristobal's area is again very large, but its center is very strong. Now pulling this in closer, and you can see your timestamp at the bottom. Even here in central Mississippi, we're starting to see some outflow effects. As a matter of fact, since about noon today, we've had some sprinkles and all. And this green cloud at the very top right here is pretty much centered over where I live. But this storm, and this is the center of it, is here. It's very powerful. These black clouds are very strong. And notice this area that's still on the Yucatan Peninsula is starting to wrap around it. It's a very large area. I hope the thing dies out. I don't think it's going to. And I think it's going to be very strong and powerful. I don't know what kind of category hurricane or anything like that. What I'm saying is this. Because of the size of it, the flooding is going to be devastating. Remember in Katrina, guys, Mississippi was devastated with wind, and New Orleans got flooded because of the rainfall and the moisture and that was in this large storm that was called Katrina. This is going to be very similar, but it may be even larger as far as the area of the storm itself. Let's look at some of the models. Now this is the 8 p.m. update, and it's an average that they're using on, if you put all the models together, the center line kind of is the average. Guys, notice where it's going. And this morning on the video, we were looking at 7 a.m. in the morning Sunday, that it would be somewhere in this area between these two marks, and that's correct. But Sunday at 2 p.m., it's going to be way too late to make any type of plans if the timing is correct and the path is correct. But from Houston, Texas, over into Mississippi, prepare now, because if they're saying 65 miles an hour, I don't think that's going to be correct, because it's very warm in the Bay of Campeche, and it doesn't get much cooler, because right now it's a bathtub in the Gulf of Mexico, if you've ever been swimming here. It's very warm. The Gulf Stream is not rotating through the Gulf of Mexico right now. It's coming up between the Yucatan and Cuba and turning right out into the Atlantic. It does that sometimes in the summer, which means the heat is not being extracted and moving into the North Atlantic. And this is your timing on this thing. But again, Sunday, 2 p.m., 65 mile per hour winds. I think it will be at least a Cat 1, maybe more. The devastation will be because of the size, the wind, which will be strong and will take power out, but the rain and the moisture. You could have another flood in New Orleans like we saw during Katrina. If I'm wrong, I hope I am. I will come on and admit it, but I want you to prepare. Now, this update it came out 32 minutes ago at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It's newer than the one we just saw, but this is the different models. And what they're showing is this delay in the setting here and gathering up the heat and energy in the Bay of Campeche, which is the warmest part of the Gulf of Mexico. Some models have it turning out and going back up through the Yucatan, but they still end up hitting Florida, moving over to Alabama and Mississippi. The two most accurate over the years I've covered this is this purple line, the Navy model called NavGem, and this green line, that's the Canadian model. Both of those show an impact somewhere between Biloxi, Mississippi, Gulfport area, as far as the center of location, and west of New Orleans, somewhere between there, maybe going up, guys. For my friends in Baton Rouge, look at this line right there. You see that? That's center circulation. We know that will change somewhat, right? But each day that we get closer to this path will narrow. The models will get closer. Are you preparing? Tomorrow's Wednesday, right? Saturday, you're going to be beyond the point of doing much other than stuff in your house and maybe evacuating, because there will be a run out this week on supplies. And there's already a shortage of certain things, believe me, because of the COVID-19 BS. But again, 9 p.m. tonight, these are our models. Now, looking at the National Hurricane Center forecast, as of 7:58 p.m. Eastern Time today, Tropical Storm Cristobal, 45 miles per hour. Notice that the maximum central pressure is 997. It was 105 this morning, 1005 this morning, and 1007 yesterday afternoon. We talked about that pressure. When it drops, guys, then that's the increase in the storm. It's moving very slowly, 3 miles per hour, moving south. That means the models are all correct as far as it delaying in this area. And Saturday, suddenly getting into the Friday night, I would say, and then Saturday morning, it's showing it in the Central Gulf. Sunday, it's going to be too late because it's going to be all over us. But again, the storm is dropping in pressure, 997 millibars. Think about that. And it's just beginning. Guys, we're watching it. Of course, we're going to keep a very close eye on this one. It's a heads up. Be safe.